Hey, peace, everybody. We're going to get started shortly. I'll start with this lesson called CYRUS, My Shepherd, Every Knee Shall Bow. So, heard a couple of strongholds of someone who professes to be the 137th bishop of the church or of the Oneness Pentecostal Church. And what seems to be happening is there was a stronghold saying that God would not share his glory with anyone, neither his praise with graven images. And so we see that Christ is glorified in the eyes of God. And they call this something that is a landmark of something that's impassable. And so those people who hold that God doesn't share his glory with anyone, citing Isaiah, would state that Jesus is God because God glorified him and exalted him. So as I'm reading in the scripture today, I come across some passages in Isaiah and Exodus and others which are very interesting. So I'm going to share the room and get started shortly. All right. So there seems to be a gross misunderstanding of biblical history, biblical terminology, and that the way it was received and understood by those who prophesied and the fulfillments of these things. We have a very interesting phrase in Philippians chapter 2. So I want to read this in Philippians chapter 2, and then we're going to talk about Cyrus a little bit. And we're going to talk about Israel, God's servant, and Cyrus, God's shepherd, his savior and deliverer that he sent to the people. In Philippians chapter 2, it says, starting at verse 9, wherefore God also hath highly exalted him, speaking of Yeshua of Nazareth, and given him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Yeshua every knee should bow, of things in heaven, things in earth, and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yeshua, the Messiah, is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So what we're reading here is that every knee is going to bow, everybody is going to bend and confess Yeshua as God's exalted King and Shepherd, to the glory of God the Father, not unto his own glory, but unto the glory of God the Father. So where does this passage come from? Well, this passage actually comes from the book of Isaiah, and it was first spoken of Israel and Cyrus. When we look at Isaiah chapter 45, it says in verse 22 and 23, look unto me and be you saved, all you ends of the earth, for I am God and there is none else. I have sworn by myself, the word has gone out of my mouth in righteousness, and shall not return, that unto me every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess or swear. Surely shall one say, in Yahweh have I righteousness and strength, even to him shall men come, and all that are incensed against him shall be ashamed. In Yahweh shall all the seed of Israel be justified and shall glory. Now, what's interesting about this is the way that this is going to take place. Verse 23 has already been stated in verse 14. So what often happens is people isolate scripture in order to formulate doctrine, but they're not actually reading the chapters which come before and the ones that come after. See, the way that every knee is going to bow to Yahweh and the way that every tongue is going to swear or confess unto Yahweh is going to be by falling before his shepherd and before his anointed and before his people. In Isaiah 45 and 1, same chapter, it says, thus says Yahweh to his anointed, to his Messiah, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden to subdue nations before him. So Cyrus is God's Messiah. And Cyrus' right hand is being holden by Yahweh to subdue nations before him. So the nations on the earth, all the ends of the earth, are going to be subdued, meaning brought to the feet of Cyrus, king of Persia. He says, and I will loose the loins of kings to open before him the two levee gates, and the gates shall not be shut. So kings are going to fall before and at the feet of Cyrus. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give you the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest knowest that I, Yahweh, which call thee by name, am the God of Israel. They added this thee here. What's interesting about this in the King James Version, if you look at this word thee, call you by your name, they added that. I've looked in the Hebrew, that's not there. So Yahweh says that you may know that I, Yahweh, which call by your name, am the God of Israel. So God is calling Cyrus. This is what he means in verse 1. Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I've holden. So God calls to Cyrus. Like, you know, when you call out and you say, Abraham, Abraham, Jacob, Jacob, he's going to call to Cyrus, Cyrus, Cyrus. So they added the D there, which makes it hard to understand what's going on. Then we read, because he says, which call thee by your name. All right. But he's saying, no, which call, I, Yahweh, call by your name, am the God of Israel. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel my chosen, mine elect, I have even called you by your name. See, I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. See, isn't this interesting that it says here he has surnamed him? So let's get some understanding here in the book of Isaiah. Because the more you're going to understand Isaiah, the more you're going to understand that a lot of these pastors have pulled the wool over people's eyes when it comes to what's being talked about in the scripture and the way it should be properly understood. It's come to a place where I've started to realize they really don't understand a lot of Christendom, the book of John, the book of Matthew, the book of Mark, the book of Luke, Ephesians, Galatians, etc., right? So how are we going to think that they understand such a complex book as Isaiah when they spend most of their time in the Gospel of John and still can't grab hold of the revealed and hidden revelation and mystery in it? So these people spend the majority of their time in what we call the New Testament. And what they will do is go to what we call the law and the prophets and try to establish scriptures to make their points. But when you go back behind him, like I've been going behind Jerry Hayes, I've come to realize they don't even understand what's going on in the book of Isaiah and what it's actually talking about in the certain places that we see. In Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 4, God says he has surnamed Cyrus. Surname means to address as an additional name, to eulogize, to give a title to surname himself. So what's interesting about this is in the previous verses, for taking everything in context, it says in Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 5, one shall say, I am Yahweh's, and another shall call by the name of Jacob, and another shall subscribe with his right hand unto Yahweh, and surname himself by the name of Israel. So isn't this interesting that Cyrus, as God's Messiah, is actually functioning as his servant Israel to bring about deliverance for the children of Jacob and for the children of Israel, which is very interesting once we start getting into many of these surrounding texts, uh, like Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 7. Even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him. So the ones who are called by God's name, he says he has created him for his glory. I have created him for my glory. So let's understand this first. God is calling people and they are his glory. In Isaiah chapter 46 and verse 13, it says, I bring near my righteousness, it shall not be far off, and my salvation shall not tarry. And I will place salvation in Zion for Israel, my glory. You see there how God calls Israel my glory? So his glory he does not share with another. He is a jealous God, and his people that are called by his name will he not give unto the worship of idols and that which is not God? For his name is jealous. He says in Isaiah chapter 43:15, I am Yahweh, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. And in verse 21, he says, this people have I formed for myself. They shall show forth my praise. So these people who Yahweh forms for himself, these people who he says he creates, which are called Israel, these people in Isaiah 43 and 1, where he says, but now, thus saith Yahweh that created you, O Jacob, and that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. See how God says, I have called you. I have called you by your name. They added the thee there again. That you isn't there, that thee isn't there. See, and as I was studying, going behind, looking at this erroneous doctrine that Jerry Hayes was teaching, I started to realize something here that was very prevalent to this whole discussion. Cyrus is called by Yahweh, and Israel is called by Yahweh. When you look in Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 1, he says, I have called by your name. You are mine. See, I think this was a problem for the translators because they thought, well, if Yahweh is calling by their name, then that must mean he's worshiping them. Because we often hear this phrase to call on the name of Yahweh, right? Or to call on Yahweh, or to call by Yahweh. But this is very interesting in the book of Isaiah, because in the book of Isaiah, not in one place, but in two places, Yahweh has said something very, very, very interesting. In Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 1, Yahweh says, I have called by your name, you are mine. And when you look in Isaiah 45 and verse 3, talking about Cyrus, the Messiah, he says, Yahweh, which calls by your name, am the God of Israel. So both Cyrus and Israel are called by Yahweh. This is extremely interesting because we've done a lesson before in the book of Jeremiah where it says Jeremiah was called by the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. So whoever seems to be called by Yahweh is functioning in his name because he surnamed them. And this gets into the point of Isaiah chapter 45. In Isaiah chapter 45 and in verse 11, it says, "Thus says Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel and his Maker, ask me of things that come concerning my sons, and concerning the work of my hands command you me. I have made the earth, I created man upon it, even my hands have stretched out the heavens, and all their host have I commanded. I have raised up in righteousness and will direct all his ways. He shall build my city." You know, he's still talking about Cyrus here. Cyrus is making Jerusalem. This gets a little interesting here because in Isaiah 51 and 16, God says something very, very interesting when he says a few chapters later in Isaiah 51:16, "And I have put my words in your mouth, and I have covered you in the shadow of my hand, that I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and say to Zion, you are my people. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, for thou hast drunk at the hand of Yahweh the cup of his fury. Thou hast drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling and wrung them out. There is none to guide her among all the sons whom she hath brought forth, neither is there any that taketh her by the hand of all the sons that she hath brought up. These two things are come unto you. Who shall be sorry for you? Desolation, destruction, and famine, and the sword. By whom shall I comfort you?" Do you know who he was going to comfort Israel through? He was going to comfort Israel from one that was from not among them, from none of their sons or daughters, because he could not find a man among them. So he called Cyrus. This is what gets interesting about Cyrus, king of Persia, as we read in the book of Isaiah. In verse 13, God says about Cyrus, the king of Persia, "I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, and he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith Yahweh of hosts." Now, we know that Cyrus didn't directly build the city, just like Solomon didn't directly build the temple, but it says Solomon built the temple. And God is doing the same thing with Cyrus. He's saying Cyrus is going to build Jerusalem, but it's actually going to be at the word of Cyrus that Jerusalem is going to be built. So when we go to, let me pull something up here. When we go to the returning Jews to Judea, Cyrus made a decree in 538 BC for the returning of the Jews to Judea and the authorization of the rebuilding of the temple. In 2 Chronicles 36, it says, starting at verse 22, "Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, Yahweh stirred up the spirit of King Cyrus of Persia, and so he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom." So Cyrus is prophesying, and he's prophesying by the spirit that stirred in him of Yahweh. And it says, and this prophesying is actually a proclamation because he's a king, right? So what he's proclaiming now must be done. So it says that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and also put in writing saying, "Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia." But guess what? When he says, "Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia," this is actually, "Thus saith Yahweh," because Yahweh already said that he would proclaim this. Now we're starting to kind of understand what's going on in Isaiah, right? Isaiah is prophesying in the name of Yahweh, And Isaiah is saying that Yahweh is going to declare this decree. But as agency often goes, we see that it is actually Cyrus, king of Persia, who is making this decree in his name. And so watch what it says here in 2 Chronicles 36:23. Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth, Yahweh, God of heaven, has given me. Hold up a minute. We got a Persian king saying Yahweh has given him all the kingdoms of the entire earth. Well, this is going to get interesting when we get to the point of Isaiah chapter 45, verse 17, where it says, look unto me and be you saved, all you ends of the earth, for I'm God and there is none else. I have sworn by myself, and the word has gone out of my mouth in righteousness, shall not return, that unto me every knee shall bow and every tongue shall swear. Surely shall one say, in Yahweh I have righteousness and strength, even to him shall men come. Even to him shall men come, and all that are incensed against him shall be ashamed. In Yahweh shall all the seed of Israel be justified and shall glory. So in 2 Chronicles 36 and verse 23, it says, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth Yahweh, God of heaven, has given me, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May Yahweh his God be with him, and let him group. Wow. All Cyrus is gathering together all the outcasts of Israel, and he is bringing them unto himself by the commandment of Yahweh. And Cyrus is going to build the house of Yahweh at the commandment of Yahweh. And Cyrus says, may Yahweh, his God, be with him and let him group. So who is God with them that is helping them, that is saving them? Who is his angel that is doing this? Who is his Messiah that is bringing about all the purposes of Yahweh? It's Cyrus, king of Persia. Let's take a look at this. Now, in Ezra 1, verses 1 through 11, it says, now the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of Yahweh be fulfilled by the mouth of Jeremiah the prophet, Yahweh stirred up the spirit of Cyrus of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth Yahweh of heaven has given me, and he has commanded me to build a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? May his God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of Yahweh of Israel. He is God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold. Now, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with goods, with livestock, besides the free will offerings of the house of God which are in Jerusalem. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests of the Levites, with all whose spirits God had moved. Now look, God is moving these men's spirits. God has moved Cyrus, his anointed spirit. So all of them are being moved by the spirit of Yahweh now. All right. They arose to go up to build the house or the temple of Yahweh, which is in Jerusalem. But you remember, God said that Cyrus would build his house. But we see that Cyrus is actually doing it through mediators as well, which is being attributed to Cyrus, which is being attributed to God. This is agency, what we call agency. They're all working together in one mind, in one name, and in one spirit. And so what they are doing and what they're accomplishing, Yahweh is the one making it happen. So Yahweh is the principal active force, and they are the ones fulfilling his will. As they fulfill his will, it is saying that Yahweh is doing it. We understanding this? So it says, all those who were around him encouraged them with articles of silver and gold, goods, livestock, and with precious things, besides all that was willingly offered. King Cyrus also brought out the articles of the house of Yahweh, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem, and put in the temple of his gods. And Cyrus, king of Persia, brought them out by the hand of Merodach the treasurer. So again, Cyrus is the one who brought out the hidden treasures. Remember, we read this in Isaiah 45 and verse 2. I will go before you and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass. I will cut in sunder the bars. I will give you the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, Yahweh, which call by your name, am the God of Israel. So God's hidden treasures were his people amongst the nations. That was his hidden treasure. Those were his jewels, as it says in another place in Isaiah. And it was the things of his temple, of his people. And so Cyrus, according to Ezra chapter 1, verse 8, king of Persia, brought them out by the hand of Merodach the treasurer, and counted them out to Sheshazabazar, the prince of Judah. This is the number of them: 30 gold platters, 1,000 silver platters, 29 knives, 30 gold basins, 410 silver basins of a similar kind, and 1,000 other articles. All the articles of gold and silver were 5,400. And these Sheshbazzar took with the captives who were brought from Babylon to Jerusalem. This is going to get important when we get into Isaiah chapter 45, verse 14. That part. Remember that part. So it says in Ezra chapter 6, verses 2 through 5. And at Ecmedatha, in the palace, that is, in the province of Media, a scroll was found, and in it a record was written thus: in the first year, King Cyrus issued a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Let the house be rebuilt, the place where they offered sacrifices, and let the foundations of it be firmly laid. Its height 60 cubits and its width 60 cubits. Now hold up a minute. How did Cyrus build the temple? Cyrus made the plans for the temple. Does everybody see that right there? Because this is going to get very interesting. Let me read this one more time slowly so we can get this. It says, this is Ezra chapter 6, verse 3. In the first year, King Cyrus issued a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Quote, let the house be rebuilt, the place where they offered sacrifices, and let the foundations of it be firmly laid. Its height 60 cubits and its width 60 cubits, with 3 rows of heavy stones and 1 row of new timber. Let the expenses be paid from the king's treasury. Also, let the gold and the silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple, which is in Jerusalem, and brought to Babylon, be restored and taken back to the temple, which is in Jerusalem, each to its place, and deposit them in the house of God. So Cyrus, by his word, the temple of God is being filled with all of its riches and treasure. By King Cyrus's decree, all of God's precious jewels, those his people Israel, are being gathered together and put back in the land of Israel. By Cyrus' own plans, By his own architectural design will the foundation of God's temple be laid. I've chosen you, I've put my words in your mouth that you would plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, that you would say unto Zion. This gets very interesting because what's happening here is Cyrus is restoring the kingdom of Israel, and he, by his word, is also resurrecting the temple of God. Now, when we go to Isaiah chapter 45 and read here at verse 13, it says, I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city. But how did Cyrus build his city? Well, it was by his word. This gets extremely interesting, doesn't it? Because Cyrus didn't do anything, he didn't physically do it, but he did it according to his word. So then it says, he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith Yahweh of hosts. Because he's not going to do it for price or reward. He's doing it in the name of Yahweh, right? And matter of fact, he's not doing it for any reward, because all the gold and the silver of the nations, of the Babylonians, and all those people that dwelled in that region, of Yah's precious things are actually being given to Judah, right? And being brought back into the land of Israel. So in 14, he says, thus saith Yahweh, the labor of Egypt and the merchandise of Ethiopia and Sheba, men of stature shall come over unto you, and they shall be yours. They shall come after you in chains. They shall come over, and they shall fall down unto you. They shall make supplication unto you, saying, surely God is in you, and there is none else. There is no God. Verily, thou art a God that hidest thyself, O God of Israel, the Savior. They shall be ashamed and be confounded, all of them, they that go to confusion together, that are the maker of idols. But Israel shall be saved in Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. You shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. So how was it that every knee was going to bow and every tongue was going to confess and swear unto the name of Yahweh? It was going to be at the feet of Israel and his anointed Cyrus. Now, where and how do we start to understand Philippians chapter 2? Well, it's very simple, isn't it? Paul understood it, didn't he? Paul said that at the name of Jesus, every knee and every tongue, right, shall bow and confess that Jesus is Lord, Messiah, right, to the glory of God the Father. Well, what's happening with Cyrus here? Well, every knee is bending, every tongue is confessing that Cyrus is king to the glory of Yahweh. I have here the Cyrus cylinder. The Cyrus cylinder is in writing of antiquity. And this is what it says. There's many people who have written about Cyrus. Herodotus is one. Herodotus wrote that Cyrus' stratagem to enter the city. He says, drawing off the river Euphrates by a canal into a lake, which was till now a marsh, he made the stream to sink till the former channel could be formed. When this happened, the Persians, who were posted with the intent, made their way into Babylon by the channel of the Euphrates, which had now sunk about the height of the middle of the man's thigh. So what's interesting here is that as we go down, this actually details and fulfills Isaiah's prophecy to the letter. God wrote that he would dry up the rivers for Cyrus so that he could subdue nations in Isaiah 44 and 27. In Isaiah 44:27, it says, who says to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up your rivers. Then in verse 28, it says, let me start 44:27. It says, thus saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up the rivers. That saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure. Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundation is laid, to plant the heavens and to lay the foundation of the earth. Cyrus is his shepherd. Cyrus is his Messiah, performing these functions. Now, if we look at this, I'm going to go to the Cyrus cylinder. Look at what it says here. All the inhabitants of Babylon bowed to Cyrus and kissed his feet. Let me read this again. All the inhabitants of Babylon. Now, why is this important that it's all the inhabitants of Babylon? Because remember, Babylon is the tree in Daniel. Babylon is the tree that all nations are under. So if Babylon is kissing the feet of Cyrus, that means all nations are subdued before him, because Babylon was the superpower. We've talked about this before with Moses. And in Exodus chapter 12, Pharaoh and them come bending before Moses. So in Exodus 11:12 in there. Now, what's interesting here, that Cyrus is being reported of him in the Cyrus cylinder, that the inhabitants of Babylon bowed to Cyrus and kissed his feet, jubilant that he had received the kingship. The king, as was his policy, allowed his vassal states to retain their cultural and religious identities. He advanced funds to repair the restoration of the building of public buildings, particularly temples, shrines. He reversed the Babylonian policy of forced relocation of conquered peoples, allowing the descendants to return to their ancestral homelands. Thus, Cyrus' decree in 538 of returning the Jews to Judea and authorizing the rebuilding of the temple, etc. So, what do we see happening here? When Cyrus received the kingship, we see that every knee bowed and they kissed his feet. Remember what it says in Isaiah 43 Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 45 and 14. Thus saith Yahweh, the labor of Egypt, the merchandise of Ethiopia and Sheba, men of stature shall come over unto you, and they shall be yours. Well, who is he talking about? The 1 in 13. I have raised him up in righteousness. I will direct his ways. He shall build my city. So now look at this one who has built his city. Thus saith Yahweh, the labor of Egypt and the merchandise of Ethiopia and the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto you, and they shall be yours. They shall come after you in chains. They shall come over. They shall fall down unto you and shall make supplication unto you. You know what it means to make supplication unto him? That means they're calling upon his name. Supplication is a word for prayer. So let's go to Isaiah 45 and verse 14. I had to do it. All right. Isaiah 45 and verse 14. This word supplication is the word palal, right? Which means to judge officially, intercede, pray, entreat, judgment, make, prayer, make supplication. This word to make prayer unto God's anointed, to make supplication, to call upon Cyrus's name. This is the same word for prayer in Genesis 20:17. So Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech. This is the same word in Genesis 48:11. And Israel said unto Joseph, I have not thought to see thy face. So it means to think upon, to pray. When you go down to 1 Samuel 1:12, and it shall come to pass as she continued praying before Yahweh that Eli marked her mouth. Right? So 1 Samuel 8:6. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto Yahweh. So this word here, supplication, who is this being done to? In Isaiah 45 and verse 14, it's being done to God's Messiah. It says, thus saith Yahweh, the labor of Egypt, the merchandise of Ethiopia, and the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto you. They shall be yours. They shall come after you in chains. They shall come over, and they shall fall down. That means worship. They shall worship unto you, and shall make prayer or supplication unto you, saying, surely God is in you. There is none else. There is no God. So who are all the people bowing down before? Who are all the people recognizing and swearing unto and making supplication to? It's Cyrus. But in Isaiah 45 and verse 23, it says it's Yahweh. And that's because in Isaiah 45 and verse 14, they understand that this is to the glory of the Father. It's to the glory of Yahweh. Surely God is in you. Surely God is in his anointed. And there is none else. There is no God. This is exactly what Paul is saying in Philippians chapter 2, that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess Jesus. Just like these people where every knee is bowing and every tongue is confessing Cyrus, to the glory of God the Father, to the glory of Yahweh. Now, this glory here, in Isaiah chapter, in Isaiah chapter, uh, this is a big scroll, man. There's a lot in here. This it starts so far back and it goes so much farther, but let me go to that he won't share his glory with anybody, right? Isaiah 42, verse 8. Now, right here in Isaiah chapter 42, verse 8, it says, and matter of fact, let me start with verse 1 because it starts with his servant. Behold, my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delighteth. I put my spirit upon him. He shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not cry nor lift up his voice, that shall not be heard in the street. A bruised reed shall he not break, a smoking flax he will not quench. He shall bring forth judgment unto truth. He shall not fail nor be dismayed till he have set judgment in the earth, and the isles shall wait for his law. Thus saith God, Yahweh, he that created the heavens and stretched them out, he that spread forth the earth, and he that which cometh upon it, he that giveth bread unto the people to eat upon it, and the spirit to them that walk therein. I, Yahweh, have called thee in righteousness. Now, this is the same thing we see over in I've called you in righteousness. This is the same thing we saw over in uh, Isaiah chapter 45, I believe. God actually mentions this quite a few times, but in Isaiah 45:13, it says, I have raised him up in righteousness. And he mentions this a few other times, even speaking of Israel. Isaiah 46, for example, 12, hearken unto me, you stout-hearted that are far from righteousness. I bring near my righteousness, it shall not be far off. My salvation shall not tarry. I will place salvation in Zion for Israel, my glory. So in Isaiah 42 and 6, it says, I, Yahweh, have called thee in righteousness. I will hold your hand and will keep you and give you for a covenant to the people and a light to the Gentiles. It's the same type thing he did with Cyrus in Isaiah 45 and 1, where he says, thus saith Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden. See, Yahweh held Cyrus's hand. Isaiah 42 verse 6, Yahweh have called him in righteousness. He will hold his hand. He will keep him and give him for a covenant to the people and a light to the Gentiles. So we're talking about the servant of Yahweh here. In verse 7, it says, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from prison, and from them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring up, I tell you of them. Sing unto Yahweh a new song, and his praise from the end of the earth. Ye that go down into the sea, and all that is therein, the isles and the inhabitants thereof, etc. So Yahweh is saying that I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. So his glory here is actually talking about his people, and his praise is what they are giving to graven images. When you look in Isaiah 43 and verse 7, he says, even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him. In Isaiah 45:13, he says, I bring near my righteousness. I shall not be afar off, and my salvation shall not tarry. And I'll place salvation in Zion for Israel, my glory. When you go to Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 21, it says, this people have I formed for myself. They shall show forth my praise. Okay, we kind of see what's happening here a little bit, right? God is married to Israel. God is jealous for Israel. The man is the image and glory of God, and the woman is the glory of the man. So Israel is worshiping other gods. Israel is committing adultery. They are giving praise not to their husband, but they are giving praise unto other gods. God is jealous for his namesake because his wife is called by his name. They are one. She is giving his praise unto other men, so to speak. And God is saying he will not share his glory with anyone. He is not going to give it to another because he is jealous for his name's sake. He is jealous for those who are called by his name, or those that are called, by his name, like we read before. So when you go to Isaiah chapter 44:23, it says, sing, O you heavens, for Yahweh have done it. Shout, ye lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, you mountains, O forest, and every tree therein. For Yahweh hath redeemed Jacob and glorified himself in Israel. So God is going to glorify himself in Israel. Do you know what this means? They're going to become his glory. This is Isaiah chapter 60. In Isaiah chapter 60, look at what Yahweh says. Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon you. So here in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1, the glory of Yahweh has risen upon his people. That means they are actually radiating his glory. Well, for them to radiate his glory, he has to share that with them. They have to be a partaker of his glorious light, because Yahweh is light. If they do not partake in Yahweh's light, if they do not partake in his glory, that means they're separated from Yahweh in the book of Isaiah, because he is the one that hides himself. They're waiting for the light of Yahweh to shine on them so that they may radiate and reflect his glory. And in Isaiah, and this is when he says he will create them, he will form them, everyone he has made for his glory, Israel, my glory. So in Isaiah 60, verse 2, it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, But Yahweh shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. He's going to be glorified in them because they're going to shine forth his glory. Not only his glory is going to be all over them, his glory is going to be all over them. His light is going to be all over them. So when we have people teaching us, right, that Isaiah is my glory I don't share with anybody, is talking in the manner of which that this is meaning and identifying him as if anybody is a sharer, or if anybody is a, how do you say it, has this glory on them or in them, that means they're the Most High God. But Isaiah's not talking that way. In Isaiah chapter 60, it says in verse 3, the Gentiles shall come to your light. So Israel has the glory of Yahweh. Israel has the light of Yahweh, and everybody can see it on them. So they come to them because they're being drawn to God who is in them, right? Isaiah chapter 45. The Gentiles shall see your light, and kings the brightness of your rising. So now Israel is the light that rises out of the earth. They are the glory of Yahweh that is rising up to give light to those who dwell in darkness. Lift up your eyes round about and see all that gather themselves together. They come unto you. Your sons come from far, and your daughters shall be nursed at your side, and they shall see and flow together, and thine heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto you. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto you. The multitudes of the camels that cover the dromedaries, Median and Ephra, and they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall show forth the praises of Yahweh. And all the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together. I'm going to skip down to verse 9. Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring my sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of Yahweh your God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified you. Wait a minute. In Isaiah, God said he was going to be glorified in them, but then in Isaiah chapter 60, it says he has glorified them. Doesn't that sound like John chapter 17? I have glorified you on earth, Father. Now glorify me. Yeah, I'm gonna end this lesson right here. That might be too much for people, but I had to do it because Jerry Hayes, the self-professed 137th bishop of the Oneness Pentecostal Church, is teaching people that the book of Isaiah, when he says, I won't share my glory with anybody, or I do not give, here's what it says in the Bible. They keep saying share, but let's keep it real with the Bible. I do not give my glory to another. But you just see there in Isaiah chapter 60 that he did. But what is his glory that he gives? He gives it to his children Israel. He doesn't give it to graven images. Isaiah, I do not give my glory to another, nor my praise to graven images. But he does give it to his people Israel. But he does give it to his people. See, isn't this interesting when Paul says he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, whose praise is of God and not of men? And he said, I have formed these people for my praise. So he does not give his praise, he does not give his glory to graven images because they are his. He has redeemed them, they belong to him. And this seems to be very concisely the repetitive theme that's actually happening through the book of Isaiah. It actually starts in Isaiah chapter 2. All the people are going to seek unto the temple of Yahweh in the high mountain, and all of them shall be taught, for the word or the law of the Lord shall come from Jerusalem. And so the temple of Yahweh is actually talking about his people. It's talking about his people in Isaiah chapter 2. That's where they're going to come to seek the name of Yahweh. It said that many people shall grab her skirt of him that is a Jew and saying, we know that Yahweh is with you. Our fathers have inherited lies and etc. I don't think they're seeing what's going on here. In Isaiah chapter 49, when he said, you are my servant Israel, in whom I have chosen, that you should raise up the tribes of Jacob and the preserved of Israel, that you should be my light. Not just like you shall be my light to lighten the Gentiles and the salvation to the end of the world. Paul said that it was said about Jesus Christ, an Israelite, in Luke, the 2nd chapter, and it was also said about Paul and Barnabas, Israelites, in Acts the 13th chapter. In Acts the 13th chapter, it says, Paul says out of his own mouth, the Lord has commanded us, Yahweh has commanded us, that we should be a light to lighten the Gentiles and his salvation to the end of the earth. So the Israelites are God's salvation to the end of the earth. This is what the book of Isaiah is saying. They're the ones who are bringing the knowledge of Yahweh to the nations. It's happening with Jesus Christ, the Jew. You'll grab hold of a skirt of one that is a Jew. From here is going to go forth the gospel. So Isaiah starts talking about this gospel. How beautiful are the feet, plural, of those, plural, who give glad tidings of good things, plural. And these people are actually the ones bringing the light and glory of Yahweh into the world because he is manifesting in them. He's giving them his nature, his actual divine nature in 1 Peter. So when Jesus says, glorify me, Father, with the glory I had with you before the world was, then he looks over at his disciples and says, the Father, the glory he has given me, I have given you. They're going to tell you, no, he doesn't give you that glory. Only Jesus has that glory. But that glory is for his people, Israel, collectively. And see, this is another problem, the resurrection. It's another problem, see, when we start digging behind these people. And so I praise God that Jerry Hayes was saying these things, because it's been a while since I've really, dug into the book of Isaiah. And then when I found this thing about Cyrus, and then I read in Isaiah 42, and I see very clearly here that we've been lied to by these so-called bishops, these so-called pastors. They keep coming up short. They keep coming up lacking. They're being weighed in the scale and they're being found wanting. Their doctrine is not panning out. So all praises be to God. I'm going to shut down this room and open another one for discussion. Peace.